Are you living too fast? Spinning through your days with work, your stomach rumbling because you never get to enjoy a proper meal. Your eyes are heavy from lack of sleep, from countless nights spent awake at your desk. Perhaps you're racing against time, striving to achieve an unfinished dream. But your steps are too rushed, you keep running and forget to love yourself. Now, let's dive into this episode of Why Is That So? It was a weekend, and the neighborhood kids didn't have school. They gathered at the end of the alley to play. One group played alligator on the bank, shrieking in fear, and then giggling wildly when they escaped the alligator's chase. Another group played dragon snake in the clouds, each child gleefully determined to protect their tail from being caught by the healer. It turned out these traditional games were still known to the little ones. Seeing them play so happily brought sunshine to my heart. Children truly are different. Just looking at their adorable faces was enough to fill me with a sense of pure joy. "Kids, want some candy?" asked the grandpa of one of the children, bringing out a bag of sweets. The whole group stopped their games and rushed forward, scrambling for candy. Kids love candy, they love anything sweet. Grandpa couldn't hand them out fast enough. When only one candy was left in the bag, he reached out and said, "Sonny, come here, Grandpa will give you this candy." It was only then that I noticed her. While her friends were playing so cheerfully, there was a little girl sitting by the edge of a house door, hunched over, her knees pulled up high, almost past her ears, her hands fiddling with blades of grass. When Grandpa called, she ran out. He placed the candy in her hand. She thanked him and put the candy in her pocket. Grandpa asked, "Why don't you eat it now?" She replied, "I might share it with my little sister." Sunny was 8 years old, but the eldest child in her family. Her parents divorced because her father was too poor, and her mother couldn't bear it, so she left her father and Sunny to find a new home when Sunny was 5. But 2 or 3 years later, her mother died in an accident. I heard the neighbors say that Sunny was a very loving child, mature beyond her years. When her mother was still with her, Sunny once saw a large scar on her mother's stomach and worriedly asked, "Mom, are you sick?" Her mother just joked, "The doctor had to cut open my belly to bring you into the world." Hearing this, Sunny cried, touching the raised scar and the white stretch marks on her mother's wrinkled belly, weeping uncontrollably. Her mother just brushed it off, saying, "Oh, it's nothing. I'm perfectly healthy now." But Sunny kept crying. She was sad her mother had to endure such pain to give birth to her. She missed her mother terribly. The day her mother packed her clothes into a bag, got into a stranger's car, and left home, Sunny cried too. Her eyes blurred with tears, but she forced them open wide enough to see, to run after the car, begging her mother to stay. But the car just kept going. She wondered why her father just sat there. Why didn't he run with her to chase after her mother? He just sat silently, chain-smoking. Her father's dark, calloused hands reeked of alcohol and cigarettes. She loved her father dearly too. He worked as a porter, carrying hundreds of pounds of cement on his back, stacking bricks under the scorching summer sun to earn money for her schooling. She remembered the day her mother left. Her mother told her to cook for her father, otherwise, he'd just drink and smoke through his meals and die young. So, from that moment on, she took over all the household chores for her father. Who could imagine an 8-year-old child doing everything? Cooking, taking care of her younger sibling, feeding the chickens, cleaning the house. She did it all because she didn't want her father to suffer anymore. Before, her mother used to call her through the neighbor's phone. Sunny would hear her mother's voice on the other end and feel so happy. She would just wish for the days to fly by, for Friday evening to arrive quickly so she could wait for the neighbor to call her over to hear her mother's advice. She knew her mother loved her because her mother often told her to study hard so she wouldn't suffer later. The person who doesn't want you to suffer is the person who loves you, so she always studied diligently, completing all the homework her teacher assigned. But then, one Friday, she waited and waited, but her mother never called. A few days later, she heard the neighbors say her mother had died in an accident. She didn't really understand what death was. The neighbors said her mother had turned into ashes and flown up to the sky. "Oh, to the sky is fine," she thought. "I like the sky too. I like watching the blue clouds." She used to imagine herself running and jumping on those fluffy clouds. That day, that night, it would surely be fun, as long as her mother was happy and would call her. Her mother could go anywhere. She would sit and wait by the neighbor's door for her mother to call, but there was never any signal. Once, she stood outside the neighbor's door in the dark, scaring the neighbor so much she nearly stumbled and twisted her ankle. The neighbor's son then screamed, "Your mom's dead," She's never calling you again, so stop coming here." It was then that she finally understood her mother was truly gone. She hid in her room and cried herself to sleep. Her father loved her too. Despite being poor, he still tried to work to earn money for her tuition so she could go to school no matter what. Everyone in the neighborhood said her father was a good man. Before, he was gentle and never drank. But after losing his job and being scorned by her mother's relatives, he turned to alcohol to escape his troubles and became addicted. When alcohol was in his system, his mind could hardly be clear. Then, he would hit Sunny. His eyes would roll wildly, and he'd grab whatever was nearby a wound that was already healing and beat the little girl relentlessly on her back. Her small, bony body trembled until the pain became unbearable. When her younger sibling cried loudly, Sunny also burst into tears, pleading with her father, and that's when the neighbors would realize and rush over to save her. The little girl would collapse, unconscious. Everyone in the neighborhood felt sorry for her, but there was nothing they could do. Once, a neighbor asked her, "Your father hits you so much. Do you hate him, or would you rather live with me?" The little girl shook her head and said, "No, I don't hate my father. I love him very much. If I live with you, who will stay home to cook for Dad and take care of my younger sibling?" It turns out, understanding. Children don't want to hurt others, so they choose to bear the hardship themselves. When adults ask them to do something, they will cheerfully comply without complaining, resenting, or getting angry, much less resisting or arguing back. When their parents are tired or disheartened, they will nestle into their parents' arms like little birds, helping them ease their worries and sorrows. Even when their parents are angry and treat them unfairly, they quickly forgive and gently comfort them. On the contrary, they would rather suffer themselves than let their parents be sad. Everyone in my neighborhood praised Sunny for being obedient. They even taught their own children, saying, "Look at Sunny. She's so well-behaved, not stubborn like you, always messing around like little devils, driving me crazy." Indeed, mischievous children give adults headaches, but understanding children break our hearts. Beneath the facade of those understanding, obedient children in our dreams, it turns out, are a multitude of wounds. They don't want to hurt others, so they choose to hurt themselves. Late last year, her father asked if Sunny could join the club I started for the neighborhood kids, so I had more time to interact with her. Unlike the other lively kids who would shout and fight over toys, she would just sit neatly at the table. She was hard to open up. The first question I always asked the children before class was, "How do you feel today?" Everyone would excitedly chime in, "I'm happy." But Sunny would just softly say, "I'm okay. I feel normal, just like any other day." Sunny often unconsciously drew random faces on the worksheets I gave out, pressing hard with her pen. Though varied, it was easy to see that every face she drew was crying, with large tears. She only used two colors, black and red. When I asked her, "What is this red?" she replied, "That's blood." "Why is there blood here, sweetie?" "Because they got hit." At that moment, I looked at her for a long time. I stroked her hair and asked, "Why did they get hit?" "Because they were naughty, so they got hit." "But do you know what naughty things they did?" she replied. "I don't know, they just came and said they were naughty, so they would get a beating." I had a feeling those drawings were of herself and the beatings she endured. One time, the kids in class were playing a very fun game and invited Sunny to join. I saw her smile then. It was the first time I'd seen such a radiant smile. I told her, "Sunny, your smile is so pretty." She suddenly clamped her lips shut, and the smile vanished instantly. It was much later that I understood the story behind it. Sunny means sunshine. When her mother named her, she thought Sunny would be a girl with a bright, radiant smile. And it was true, she had a very beautiful smile, just like her mother. The neighbors used to say, "When this girl smiles, she looks exactly like her mother. Maybe that's why her father often hits her." Hearing that, I was speechless. So that was the reason I never saw her smile. She was afraid that if she smiled and looked like her mother, it would intensify her father's pain. So she clamped her lips shut and locked away her smile, afraid of making her father sad. Why do people tell children so many things when they are still so young? What should I do for her now? I gave the students in class a small assignment about the words they wanted to say. I told them if there was anything they couldn't say directly, they could write it down. And so, she wrote a very long letter to her father. A few days later, I remember it vividly, it was a softly golden sunny day. She walked through the door as usual. I was about to ask, "How do you feel today?" expecting the usual answer, but today her face was bright with joy. She was truly happy. I was thrilled and quickly asked, "Oh my, what's got you so happy? You're practically glowing." She then handed me a piece of candy. Oh, that feeling at that moment. The sunshine on the porch spread and filled my heart. This was the radiant Sunny I'd always known she could be. This world always makes understanding children suffer more. The child who cries and makes a fuss gets candy, but the understanding children, on the other hand, receive no pity. Every child loves candy. They love the sweet taste. People say, understanding children often don't get candy, but I don't think so. They are the sweet candies of life, coloring it with meaningful hues. Do you remember the story of Grandpa giving candy to the children at the beginning of this podcast? When Grandpa saw Sunny not daring to eat the candy and saving it for her younger sibling at home, he rushed back to get another bag of candy. I also ran into the house to get a bag of cookies. And at that moment, another little boy ran up to Sunny, held out his hand, and offered, "Here, have some candy. I have lots." Every child deserves to be loved, whether they are mischievous or easily obedient. The problem isn't with the children. The problem stems from the adults' behavior. Understanding, children force adults to reflect on themselves. Share candy fairly with the little ones. Don't ignore their existence just because they are easily obedient. I hope all children in this world have candy, are loved and cherished. I hope, understanding, children are not those who always say, "Yes, ma'am," constantly suppress their feelings, humble themselves to others, and are ready to suffer for the sake of others. To be understanding is to comprehend everything, even things that haven't happened to you, and then to act in the most beautiful way possible. But if understanding means being bullied, then that is weakness. I hope children will be strong and understanding at the right time and place, understanding with the right people. I hope they learn how to demand and how to refuse. I hope they will always put themselves first and live happily, because only when they know how to love themselves can they truly love others.